Top 10, I got a top 10. Got my motivation high for my top 10. Gotta learn from the wise women and men. All my life, like nah, 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 nah. For my top 10, top 10, nah, nah, nah. This one's for my top 10.
Need motivation?
Watch a top 10 with Believe Nation.
Hey, it's Evan Carmichael, and this channel was created to help you overcome the #1 challenge that is holding you back, a lack of belief in yourself. You watch these videos because you know there's something greater inside you as well. You've got Michael Jordan level talent at something. So get ready to believe, absorb the motivation, and be fearless with Casey Neistat and my take on his top 50 rules for success to give you the motivation that you need. Okay, let's kick it off with rule #1, believe.
I always made a living so I could make movies. I never made movies to try and make a living. And I think that's a big mistake that a lot of newcomers do, is that they focus on how can my passion pay me? And I think that's a terrible place to start. If the reason why you're doing anything creative is to make a living, then you're doing it wrong. You get into it because it's a true passion. It's something you really believe in. Or don't get into it at all.
Rule #2, absorb the motivation.
What inspires me? You know, I don't really like the word inspiration. I like the word motivation. Because I think the working part always matters more than the inspiration part. Work is always more important than the idea. And as far as motivation, you know, I'm motivated by everything around me. I'm motivated by my kid. I'm motivated by other people's work. I'm motivated by the people that I work with. I'm like a sponge. I absorb the motivation to do my work from everything around me.
Rule #3, focus on the why.
Well, I think the key to vlogging well, and I think this is true to writing, to filmmaking, to any sort of creative capacity, any sort of field in the creative capacity, is that it's not how you tell it, it's what you tell. So it never has anything to do with what camera you shoot on. It doesn't have to do with camera tricks or high production or low production. It's what you're saying. That is the only thing that anyone will ever respond to. So the advice I give to newcomers or to aspiring filmmakers or YouTubers is that shift all of your focus from how to do it to what you're doing. What is it that you want to communicate? What drives you? And if that's what your focus is, I think you'll be a much more effective sort of communicator and creator than if you're someone who obsesses over what lens they should be shooting on.
Rule #4, explore.
When I look back at my career, I see all of these tangents, and the tangents that have always yielded success were the ones where there was no established path, no defined route for me to take. But I went down it anyways. And through that kind of exploration, I always discovered something new. And those new things, those new entities, whether they be movies or ideas or things in my personal life, have always proven to be the most rewarding for me. Life shrinks and expands in direct proportion to one's willingness to take on risk. And I think when it comes to exploring, the act of exploration is the act of assuming risk. The greater risk taker is the greater explorer.
Also, if you want to have more confidence, check out my 254 series. They're free. The links to join are in the description below.
Skill I use is probably communication, which I think is building on what Gary said. I think communication is a two-way street.
Rule #5, find the way.
I never went to film school. I never sort of apprenticed under a filmmaker. I was never taught. I never had a mentor. I never had anybody that I followed. And the interesting thing that happens when you don't know the way is that you have to find the way. And I always get to the destination, which are these finished movies, but the path with which I employ is radically different from what's the norm. And again, that's not I don't take credit for that as some genius stylistic move. It's just I don't know. Like, I still don't know how to do proper titling. Like, my assistant editor did those titles, which is why most of the movies on my YouTube channel, all the titles are just handwritten on paper, and then the piece of paper is filmed. Because I don't know how to do it right. I don't know how to do After Effects. So all my animation is like stop frame. And now, sort of in success, I have the opportunities to use all of the tools that were always so elusive to me. So now it's a much more conscious decision to maintain this sort of handmade aesthetic.
Rule #6, have a great story.
I think now that so much media is consumed on mobile, the cinematography, the cinematic aspects are being marginalized, and what's taking its place is sort of a more relatable story. I think one of my most watched videos that was shot terribly on a mobile phone, but the story is so poignant that 13 or 14 million people still elected to see it. So I think there will always be a place and an appreciation for really high quality cinematic production appeal. But there's a new place that's being presented, that mobile is presenting, that will forgive shortcomings in production, provided that the story is there, provided that the content is something that people care about.
Rule number 7, work hard.
There are 2 rules that I always adhere to, and that is to work hard and be brave. And I think the essence of hard work is one that's pretty straightforward, is that you'll never be the best looking, you'll never be the tallest, most talented, most capable, you'll never have the most money. There will always be someone who's better at whatever you're doing than you are. But you can always be the hardest working person in the room. And I think the hardest working person will always win.
Rule number 8, be fearless.
Right after the HBO show aired, I produced 2 feature films that were big hits. They premiered at like Cannes Film Festival and Sundance, and I got an award that Natalie Portman gave me on TV that my dad watched, and it was like a big, big deal. And I remember having this moment where I realized that I was so deep into this thing that it didn't feel right to me. And it's different trying to find opportunities when you are in a place of success, when you're in a place of comfort. I was no longer starving, I wasn't hungry anymore, I had some recognition. But something didn't feel right, and that was when I took this big pivot, and that pivot was to you know what, it's not the politics, it's not the Natalie Portman giving me the award, it's not the schmoozing that I love. I love telling stories. Telling stories is my passion. And that was when I decided to sort of walk away from TV and walk away from movies. And I just wanted to make YouTube videos. And I remember my big Hollywood agent, when I sort of told that to him, he was like, oh God, Casey, no. This was 4 years ago, 5 years ago now, YouTube was nothing. It was something that was silly. It was a really great place to go and watch cats play the piano. And I wanted to parlay my career as a very successful filmmaker into that. And I can't tell you the opportunities that were birthed from that. It's given me what I have today. That's opportunity. Those are opportunities. Those are opportunities that in the moment I couldn't have told you were opportunities. I didn't know what they were. They were something that just felt right. They were something that looked right. I did my best calculations. I took my best guess. It wasn't reckless. I never operate recklessly, and this is an important differentiation between recklessness and fearlessness. I always do my best to operate without fear. Don't not do something. Don't skip something because I'm afraid to do it, but make sure it's a smart decision. And then part 2 of that is obligation. I feel obliged to embrace opportunities like that. I felt obliged to quit my job. I felt obliged to walk away from HBO. And the obligation was because there was something in me, there was a truth that I wanted. And the obligation was to embrace that.
Rule number 9, embrace available resources.
First movie we made that anybody saw was in 2003, and this is a good story for Eddie Lampert, who talked yesterday about biting the hands that feed you. So in 2002, I think, Apple came out with the iPod, and in 2003, my iPod battery died. And I called up, and I was dead broke at the time, it was a present. I called up Apple to fix it, and they were like, just buy a new one. And it really pissed me off. So I called them back, but I recorded the phone call. And this is at the time, I know. This is at the time when Apple had those awesome, those silhouette with the colors, posters all over New York City. I mean, the whole city was covered in them. So I recorded the phone call, and then my brother Van and I went around with this stencil, and we spray painted iPod's unreplaceable battery lasts only 18 months on every one of these in New York City. And we didn't think it was, I mean, sure we were wise asses, but we just thought we'd educate the masses. If Apple wasn't gonna do it, we thought we would. And the irony here is that this video is huge. This is before YouTube. This is when viral meant chlamydia in a frat house. This thing was huge. This was emailed all over the place. Millions of views. Steve Jobs sending me hate mail. And then like a week later, Apple changed the policy and they were like, yeah, we were gonna do it anyways. Which is great. But again, this video brought a lot of eyeballs to my brother and me, and people got to see all these other little stupid videos that we'd been making for years, and I tried to like find some press for you guys, but this is 7 years ago, so I couldn't really find. But this was some of that. And anyhow, it brought a lot of attention to us, and if anything, it drove home the point that like you don't need any of that understood infrastructure. This was just like us being pissed off, and that was enough motivation, so we went and made this movie, and now we got all this attention. And we drove that home I stuck with that for a really long time, and now, you know, I make sort of serious movies. I just shot a documentary, a feature-length doc in Afghanistan, which is gonna be kind of serious. But I never let go of that, and I still make sort of like wise-ass off movies. And this summer, this is a good one, I just want to tell this story, but this summer I was riding my bike through New York City, and I was pulled over in the pouring rain by a police officer for riding my bike outside of the bike lane. Come on, man, that's like, give me a break. So I filmed the cop on my iPhone, naturally, and then I made a movie of me going around trying to show the officer why you can't always ride in the bike lanes, and I crashed into everything I found. So the video is just me arguing with a cop for like 30 seconds, then me crashing my bike for another 2 minutes. And this thing was huge. I mean, this thing was bigger than the iPod movie. This was gigantic, like, it was on every news outlet, and Bloomberg had to answer to it in a press conference, and what is this, The Guardian called me a warrior, which is awesome. And it was huge, and this, again, is another good exemplification of the idea that it's just embrace the resources that you have available to you. And this is what I try to talk to young kids about, and this is what I try to reinforce, is that like, let go of all the pretensions that is filmmaking and embrace what you have available to you.
Rule number 10, act now.
I want to talk about risk. As a guiding principle, life shrinks and life expands in direct proportion to your willingness to assume risk. Yeah, I've made some really stupid decisions in my career for my entire career. On a broad plane, they've all worked out. Every time I've quit my jobs, which I've done every time I've had a job, people that I trust most, the people that I love, all advised against it. My dad told me not to move to New York City because it was such a risk. And every time I took these bigger risks, the opportunity for a larger payout was always there. Life is like this super temporary, mega fragile thing. You only get like a nugget of time to really pursue the things you care about. And like I'm 30, and my rule is that the right time is always right now. To put a little meat on these bones, this new company that I don't really talk about, this new company is the biggest risk I've ever taken. I took 5 years of my life to build my advertising career, and I made like a lot of money. I've been doing really great. Look at my YouTube channel, go all the way back. The last branded content thing you'll see was in February of 2014. I ditched it all to pursue something I knew nothing about, this huge risk. And I did it at a time when my wife was pregnant, and there was all of this vulnerability and all this scariness in my life. And even now at 33, my dad said, 34, my dad said, Casey, that's crazy. You've got a good thing, don't let it go. But I know that like someday I won't be able to do this. I know that the time is now. The right time is always now. So I had to do it. That's how I feel about risk in general. And that's what the struggle has always been for me, is like identifying risk, identifying fear, and then just smashing through it. Because a fear is looking back and wishing that I had done these things. The most dangerous thing you can do in your career, the most dangerous thing you can do in life is play it safe.
Rule number 11, do what you can't.
Keep your head down, follow the rules, do as you're told, play it safe. Wait your turn, ask permission, learn to compromise. This is terrible advice. If I were to write an autobiography, a book about my life, one title that would work would be Do What You Can't, because that idea encapsulates everything I've ever done. Like when I wanted to move to New York City and my dad was like, you can't, you don't have any money. Or when I first said I wanted to make movies and it was, you can't, you didn't go to film school. I want to have a TV show, you can't, Casey, you're not pretty enough. And to go even further, like if I were to characterize what this new generation of content creators and filmmakers, what we all do on YouTube and everywhere else is we do what we can't. You don't have to listen to anyone because in this new world, no one knows anything.
Hi, haters.
The haters, the doubters are all drinking champagne in the top deck of the Titanic, and we are the iceberg.
80, 81, 82, 83, 84, 85, 86, 87, 88, 89, mon écueil, mon cercueil, vive les chevaux.
Do what you can't.
Rule number 12, always be closing.
That run this morning, that run in the freezing cold, that was at 6 o'clock this morning. That is 6 in the a.m. I was up outside running in the freezing cold. It is currently 9 p.m., 9 o'clock at night. Tomorrow morning, I also have to get up at 5:30 in the morning. But I didn't shoot a vlog today, I didn't shoot a video, which is fine, taking days off is fine, but I shot this morning, which meant I started something. So if I didn't do a vlog today, it would have meant starting something and not finishing something. And in my book, that's not okay. Someone who starts something and doesn't finish something, that is a loser. Someone who starts something and always finishes it, that is a closer. One of my favorite movies is called Glengarry Glen Ross. Here's a quick scene.
A, B, C. A, always, B, B, C, closing. Always be closing. Always be closing.
Yeah, I tattooed that on my arm. Last week I talked about that Voltaire quote, perfection is the enemy of good. And what that means is you can never let your desire for perfection prevent you from finishing something that's good. Because to finish something, even imperfectly, is to learn from it, and then you can move on and get closer to perfection.
Rule number 13, pave your own path.
Now, if you're an artist or a filmmaker or a content creator in general, do you feel like you shouldn't even go mainstream towards TV or towards film or towards working with a music label, or should you focus on creating it all yourself? Because it still helps a lot of people who don't know how to do the online stuff.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's no answer to that question.
Right,
I think that it's one thing that everybody but the successful people fail to realize about any creative industry is that there is absolutely no defined path. Mm-hmm. There isn't one. So it's about paving your own path. And now for me, my path meant mainstream just didn't work and new media did work. And for other people, it's entirely antithetical to that, where mainstream is exactly the right place for them. Mm-hmm. So there is no formula that's right or wrong. I'm just much better versed in my own, the trajectory that I followed myself. And that includes really running away from the establishment and into whatever the most forward-thinking space is.
Rule number 14, focus.
Other than hard work, what advice would you give to better yourself both in life and in your career field? Focus. Focus is super underrated. Like, if you commit all that you are and all of your energy to one thing, you'll... Okay, this diagram, I took this from a book called, I don't know what it's called, but it goes like this. All right, you can do 10 things to like the first degree, like this right here, and that's how well you'll do all 10 things. Or you can do one thing to the 10th degree right there, and look how much better you do that. So when it comes to focus, to put all of your energy into one thing is to do that one thing really well, to the best of your abilities, to take it all the way. And to scatter yourself means you're never actually accomplishing anything. You're just sort of chipping away at a bunch of nothingness. And this is true for work, this is true for like dating versus committing yourself to one person, friendship, everything. Like really focusing and investing yourself into something you're passionate about will always yield better results than scattering yourself around, than spreading yourself thin.
Rule number 15, find the time.
What's the best way to find time to make films while in high school? I don't know. I don't have any sympathy for you. I've got a full-time job, 2 kids, baby, wife, house, bills, life, reality. And if I can find time to make some videos every day, then you can too. I know what high school is like. I did it for like a very short amount of time. If it's something you really want to do, you will find the time.
Rule number 16, show up every day.
Let's talk about 1 year of vlogging. Before I started vlogging, I had a YouTube channel for 5 years. And in those 5 years, I had a whole bunch of huge viral hits. Movies that got like 15, 16 million views. But my subscriber growth was anemic. The channel growth was anemic, flat like that. 5 years, 500,000 subscribers. Then I started uploading daily. And in 5 months, I had 500,000 more subscribers. That's 1 million subscribers. 5 years for the first 500,000, 5 months for the second 500,000. So I kept uploading. And 2 months later, I had another 500,000 subscribers. Now here I am, 1 year after doing daily uploads, and I've got 2.5 million subscribers. YouTube isn't Hollywood. I'm not Stanley Kubrick. You can't succeed here if you're uploading once a month. If you want to succeed here, you've got to show up for work every single day. That took me 5 years to learn. I didn't start daily vlogging to grow my YouTube channel. I did it as a way to kill all of those excuses I used that kept me from making more movies. Because at every single inflection point in my life, doing the work has always been the thing, has always been the catalyst that took me from where I am to where I wanted to be.
Rule number 17, don't do it for the money.
So like 10 o'clock last night, I was at the gym, getting swole. I was listening to a guy named Dan Ariely, who's a behavioral economist. He was talking about why we work. And his entire sort of thesis was predicated on the idea that we work because we want to, not because we have to. It made me think about my YouTube channel and the fact that I've made like 600 videos in the last couple of years and how much and all the things I don't get to do in life because I'm so focused on my work. The vast majority of the work that I do, including here on YouTube, I get paid for, but it definitely is not why I show up. I did it out of this like longing or hunger for accomplishment or this idea of needing to complete something. The professor I was listening to, he equates it to like climbing a mountain, which is a perfectly... It's an appropriate analogy because I love climbing mountains. Look, here is a picture of me and my homie Graham at nearly 23,000 feet above sea level. My brother Van put that note in there right after we got back. So why would we climb mountains? I don't get paid to climb mountains. It's not fun. Do I look happy there? I'm not happy. I'm close to death right there. We climb mountains for the same reason that we work. It's because as human beings, you have this desire to do something, to complete something.
Rule number 18, destroy the little man.
How do you not give a shit about what people think of you? I should preface this answer by saying I definitely got made fun of a lot for the way that I look when I was in school, and all those bullies that picked on me are all losers now. So never forget that. People who judge others, especially people who judge others based on things like looks, on whether you're black or white, whether you're Jewish or you're Muslim, whether you are gay or straight, because of their body type, whether they're fat or skinny, whether you have pimples or whether you have a big butt. These judgmental people, their opinions don't matter because they don't matter. Judgmental people are of a lower moral authority than those who don't judge. And we, people who don't judge, we have a responsibility to crush, to destroy those mean, judgmental bullies. And we do that with an overwhelming positivity, and we do that with our extreme open-mindedness. And when you subscribe to those values, you really stop caring what other people think. Because chances are, if other people are judging you, they're wrong.
Rule number 19, find your motivation.
Hunger is a very, very powerful motivator. Mm-hmm. And when I was living in that trailer park with the kid, like we were on welfare for a while.
Yeah.
I was a dishwasher. I worked in a crappy seafood restaurant as a dishwasher, which now just sort of parenthetically, my favorite piece of advice to give to young people saying, I don't know what I want to do with my life. I say, get a job doing something you hate. Because the fastest way to figure out what you love and where you want to be in life is by spending a lot of time doing something you hate.
So it's miserable.
Yeah. So, spending 50 hours a week scrubbing pots and pans was like, I was just in my head the whole time fantasizing about what I want to do in life. I was making enough to like feed my kid and pay I think it was $300 in rent, $300 a month rather than mortgage on my trailer. Mm-hmm. But my biggest fear was not being broke, because like when you're at rock bottom and you're on welfare, you can still like afford food.
Get by, yeah.
Yeah, get by might be a stretch. Like I could afford food and I could afford my trailer.
Right.
So it was like we weren't homeless and we weren't starving. So to me, that was absolute destitution. Wasn't really like that bad. There's no dignity in it, but still, it wasn't.
You weren't on the streets.
That's right. So with that, like it's like, what is it? Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Like, so like once
basic needs were met.
Basic needs were met. Then I started to look around. And I realized like the greatest fear for this like beautiful little baby boy was that he would grow up and see his dad as a loser. And that is once those basic needs are met, that's an incredibly powerful motivator.
Yeah.
Because, you know, my dad, who's absolutely not a loser, but I watched my dad to provide for his family of 6. I watched him work 60 hours a week, hating every minute of it. And he came home from work just hating his job. And
But feeling trapped, probably.
I'm sure, yeah, he had a family to take care of. He struggled. Now he does what he loves. He has a coffee shop now, and he's never been happier.
That's cool.
But I watched that, and like I just saw myself going down that trajectory. And it wasn't just a job that I hated. It was a job that I hated that didn't provide. It was a job that I hated that did nothing but cover those basic needs. And that was the motivator. That was the motivator. The catalyst for me giving up and moving to New York and going for it was, I still look back and I don't know what that was. Like
right.
there are only like 2 times in my life where I genuinely have no idea what I was thinking. And I moved to New York City in June of 2001 with $800 and a place to stay for 3 months. And that was it.
Rule number 20, do more.
Rolling?
Yes.
This is crazy hype.
Yeah. It's really crazy.
Make It Count was a movie about seizing the moment, grabbing life by the balls. I made that movie for Nike because that's an idea I believe in. Now, the Fuel Band, our motivation for the movie, keeps track of how you make it count. But back when the movie was made, it hadn't been released yet. I wasn't actually wearing a Fuel Band. But I have one now. So I thought I'd revisit the idea. So what this thing does is, it provides you with a number that keeps track of how active you are. Active can mean a lot of things. Give me a budget, ask me to be active, and I'm on the next flight out. Air travel is the closest thing to time travel. Start in Africa, always Africa. We had an idea of what we were doing, but the idea was vague. It's the only way I like to do anything. You could see 2 oceans from up there. That counts. Only flight we could find was to Amman, Jordan. This guy kept us out of trouble.
Welcome in Jordan.
Motorcycles in Vietnam. Jet skiing in Doha. So much wind in Amsterdam. We missed the train, but the adventure doesn't begin till something goes wrong. We were always moving, always the stairs, never the escalators. Got a car in Israel, played in the mud 1,300 feet below sea level, then went up, way up. From 12,000 feet, you fall for a full minute. That counts. I had heard about this waterfall in Africa. There's this great quote, and I don't know who said it, but it goes, "Without a goal, you can't score." You see, it's not a bungee cord, it's a static line, a rope. We bought our tickets at the airport. We planned nothing. Because when nothing's for sure, anything can happen.
Rule number 21, follow your dream.
Go. When I was a kid, I wanted to be a filmmaker. To me, there was no higher artistic achievement than that. I watched movies all the time. I watched all the movies. I bought this book. And the Oscars were my Super Bowl. What would I wear? What would I say in my acceptance speech? Would I do Roberto Benigni, pull a Sally Fields, or play it straight like Hanks?
Thank you.
But more than anything, I just wanted to make great films. I wanted the big cameras. I wanted the big crew. I wanted to work with the best actors. I wanted to read the best scripts, the crane locations. I wanted all of that. I wanted to be the version of the filmmaker that I thought was the only version of the filmmaker. The ones with the f***ing bow ties. That's what I thought it meant to tell stories. See, if you want to be a writer, all you need is a stack of paper and a pencil. If you want to be a painter, you need a brush and a canvas. You can be the next Picasso. But when I was a teenager, when my filmmaking fantasies were at their peak, if you wanted to be a filmmaker, you needed resources, education, you go to that knowing the right people, you have the right agent, you needed money. In order to make movies, you needed all those things. All those things I didn't have. Filmmaking was this exclusive club. It was for the chosen few. So I started to think, maybe this isn't for me. Maybe I'm just not meant to be a filmmaker. Maybe I'm not allowed to be a filmmaker. Maybe it's unrealistic. Maybe I have to find something else to do with my life. But this was my dream. And if there's one thing I know about dreams, it's that to achieve them, you have to stop at nothing. So I spent 10 years chasing it down. I said yes to every opportunity that involved picking up a camera. Bar mitzvah videos, wedding videos, birthday videos. The grind is not glamorous.
Getting killed. Getting totally killed here.
And this is the trailer I used to live in right there. But I could not give up. Get into the other lane when it's safe, Joe. I went to camp. I mean, we didn't win. I got into Sundance. We didn't win there either. I had my own TV show on HBO. It was on at midnight and nobody actually saw it, but I got my name on movie posters. I got the badges. I dotted all the T's and crossed all the I's of what it meant to be a traditional filmmaker.
All these people are here to see Go Get Some Rosemary.
I had, in theory, achieved my dream, but it didn't feel like I realized the dream. It felt like I had fit myself into somebody else's version of the dream. And then I was on an airplane, and I realized, this isn't it. This isn't why I wanted to be a filmmaker.
Simba, you have forgotten who you are.
Entry door is ready. You ready to please bring your ticket to collect your duty free?
It wasn't the red carpets, it wasn't the film festivals, it wasn't the awards, it wasn't the award shows. None of that. The more time I spent chasing down the facade of success, the less creating I was actually doing.
How can I go back?
In fact, it was after winning the biggest award of my career that I just said, I just want to make internet videos. I'm going to make a movie every day. A proper daily vlog.
Oh, good
I'm
job.
psyched. Now, we live in the future. And chances are there's a camera in your pocket that's good enough for the big screen. But you don't need the big screen. A few hundred people might show up in a movie theater, but put it online, millions. Find an audience. Find a small audience. A slightly less small audience. Find your audience. Tell your story, start a conversation. Get that idea out of your head and into your video. Make again. Make something terrible. Make it slightly better. Make it a lot better. Make it great. Finally, films, movies, videos, the most powerful form of storytelling that's ever existed. Something that used to be entirely out of reach finally. Filmmaking is now ours. Filmmaking is a sport. This is the new party, and now everyone's invited.
Rule number 22, be relentless.
My counterintuitive advice is just the power of brute force. And I mean that. I think that it's always about intellectualizing and thoughtfulness and listening to more podcasts and reading more books and all of that. But I think at the end of the day, like it is brute force. It is hard work. It is an absolute unwillingness to accept failure, to accept no. And that's true with fundraising, and that's true with ideation, and that's true with making a YouTube video. And, you know, in the, how old am I now, 36, in the 18 years of my career, I found that to be the one sort of consistent, the one constant through everything. That in any version of success, it's been because of an absolute reluctance and of that sort of brute force. I will not stop moving until I achieve what I want to succeed, or what I want to achieve. And every time that I would identify as a failure, it was because of a lack of that or questioning of that. And I think Beme 1.0 is a very good example. Like, our product failed, but the company succeeded. And I think a lot of that comes back to sort of that absolute relentlessness.
Rule number 23, find your own voice.
As a YouTuber, how do you create original content when it seems like everything has already been done?
You want to hit that one off?
Yeah, I'll hit that one off. You have to tell your story. If I've told all of my stories and Peter's told all of his stories, which neither of us have, it doesn't change the fact that nobody knows your story. So the written language has been around since hieroglyphics, thousands of years. There are still new stories being told every single day. Not everything's been done. It's up to you to find your own voice on YouTube.
Rule number 24, overcome hurdles.
Today's the day YouTube is, as we tweet, removing everyone from networks and removing monetization options if you fall below the 1,000 subs and 4,000 hours of watch time in the past 365 days. If you survived today, congratulations. Hashtag YouTube partner culling. Ouch. First of all, I hate what this says to small creators. I hate this idea that it says to you, if you have a small channel, a tiny channel, that your content doesn't have value. And while it sucks and it may be challenging for you, it doesn't mean your work isn't of value. And I know, and I like to think that YouTube knows, that the next big generation of creators on this platform are people who right now have less than 1,000 subs. That's where it starts. Anything that you really want in life is always really hard to get, and YouTube is no different. So the hurdle's a little bit higher now, but the opportunity is still there. And I end this by bringing up my friend Peter McKinnon. Peter's a huge YouTuber now. He has 1.7 million subscribers. His content's fantastic. Peter's channel is like 13 or 14 months old. A year ago, I didn't know him. A little over a year ago, he had 0 subscribers. He earned 0 AdSense. He had 0 brand deals. He had no channel at all. But he started it. He brought something new to the channel. He worked really hard. He did some interesting things to bring press and attention to what he was doing on the platform, and now he is, by all definitions, a successful YouTuber. So yes, it's harder, and it's only gonna get harder. The opportunity is still there.
Rule number 25, create meaningful content.
I think viral is difficult to define, viral is difficult to understand, viral is almost impossible to predict. But to me, what viral means is that it goes well beyond your audience because it's being shared outside of your audience. I think viral is a combination of things. I think it's about the zeitgeist, it's about the broad appeal of the video, certainly the subject matter, timeliness, all of those things. But I think chasing that is really, really uninteresting. I always think that, it's better to have 10 people see your work and have it really affect them than have 1,000 people see your work and go, meh. So to chase the latter, I think is to discount the integrity of your work altogether.
Rule number 26, root for others.
Do you see Peter as a competitor or as a friend?
Ooh, fun.
No, as a friend, but I would say the same thing about all YouTubers. Anyone who works in a space as big as YouTube and thinks that somebody else's success is gonna slow them down is sorely mistaken. YouTube is not at all a zero-sum game. It is, the more people who can succeed on this platform, the more we will all succeed on this platform.
Like, simply put, the internet is big enough for everyone.
Rule number 27, find your drive.
Is your work ethic so crazy because of what you've been through in life, or do you think you were born with it? The single greatest driving factor I have in my career and my focus in life is an absolute fear of going back to the place where I started my adult life. Being dirt poor, not being able to provide for my family. I was sort of ashamed that I couldn't take care of my family. And having that in my rearview mirror, it definitely pushes me to work harder today because of that kind of irrational fear of returning to that place where my career and my adult life began.
Rule number 28, focus.
I always talk about I deliver platitudes on never be a quitter. Platitudes like,
You can do it! Oh, yes, we can. And yes, we will.
But I have an admission. I have something that I recently kind of quit, like I gave up on, threw in the towel, and didn't finish. Let me explain. So I made this video yesterday. I think it was okay. Like, it wasn't bad, but as I was watching it back this morning and about to upload it, I realized that, like, it wasn't good either. It felt rushed and like, so I'm bringing up this failure, this quitting. I'm bringing this up to you now because, I don't know, giving up on that video made me realize that I need to focus more on my YouTube videos. You know, my head's been really focused on Beme and on family and all these other things happening in my life. But I still get all these crazy ideas, and instead of investing a bunch of time to realize those ideas like I used to, I try to rush them, and it always leaves me with something that's unsatisfactory. So I'm just bringing all this up to you now to let you know I'm gonna be giving my videos more focus and more attention, because this is kind of the only thing that gives me a tremendous sense of fulfillment in my career, kind of in my life, beyond family and stuff. And I miss that. I wanna get back to that.
Rule number 29, find your creative process.
I'm a very effective person when I'm by myself. And when I have to work in groups, like, I fall to pieces. Like, does not work well with others is what it said on every report card I got until I dropped out of high school in the 10th grade. And I think that's very true. So for me, that creative process is one where, and finding that cadence that you talked about of making a video every day was one where I removed every obstruction between me and finishing it. And other people are the biggest obstructions. I have an idea. Well, let's talk through that idea. And the metaphor that I use of discussing ideas in groups is like, when an idea at its inception, it's an ice cube. And it's rock hard, and you can look at it, and you can see it, and you can study it, and you know what it is. But when a discussion begins, you have to pass that ice cube around the room. It starts to melt and melt and melt. And after enough discussions, the ice cube's gone, and everybody's hands are wet, and nobody quite remembers what that idea was. That's a major obstruction. So for me, when it comes to creation, like, remove that obstruction. Don't talk, don't involve other people, don't need anything from anyone to realize this new video every 24 hours, and that's wildly effective.
Rule number 30, never take no for an answer.
Josh and Benny, those two guys, they're two of my oldest friends. They're two people that have motivated and inspired me as a filmmaker my whole life. And I'm talking about them now because they have a huge feature-length, like, big-time movie that's coming out in all the movie theaters this weekend. That's where they started.
You guys ready? You guys want to rock?
And they made it. They did it. Their movie that comes out this weekend stars Robert Pattinson, that huge, really handsome movie star. Those guys did it. We used to make movies together when this is what a video camera looked like.
Hey, Casey, say hi. Hey.
Hey. As if that isn't enough to celebrate, who produced their new smash hit feature-length movie? My dear friend, Oscar.
It's not that, Ross.
Oscar is one of the first people that ever worked for my brother and me, and we hired him the day after he moved to New York City when he was like 21 or something. Oscar, how did you go from being my assistant to a famous big-time movie producer?
Just by never taking no for an answer and following, believing I could do anything, which I learned in the Neistat studio.
All right.
Seriously, this guy would just, over and over again, I'd never seen anything like it. He would just say, "You're smart, figure it out. You're smart, figure it out. You're smart, figure it out. I don't care how long it takes, just make it beautiful." And that sounded a little weird at the time because you're used to working at a restaurant or being a landscaper. But it was actually really empowering, and it took me a while to figure that out. And the more movies I made, the more I realized it didn't matter. It kind of applies to everything.
Rule number 31, be a maker.
I will now read a monologue. I didn't write this monologue, but it's pretty spot on. To the person who emailed me this morning with a perfectly nice request, I'm sorry to say the answer is no. You didn't do anything wrong. You were perfectly respectful and within your rights to ask about arranging a time for a meeting. See, the problem isn't you. There's something wrong with me. I have a form of anorexia. Don't be alarmed. It's not serious, although I take it quite seriously. In fact, I think it's the secret to all of my success. I have calendar anorexia. I want as little in my calendar as possible. I'm meticulous about it. Whatever the least amount possible I can have in my calendar without killing my entire career, that's what I want. Want to set up a quick call to chat? Want to have coffee next week? Let's get together to discuss? No, no, and no. I could,
but I just can't. Even if there are serious opportunities, even if it will only take me 15 minutes, even if it's something that everyone else does, I like to avoid it. Of course, I'm not perfect at this. I do succumb just like everybody else in the modern world. There are things that I have to do, and those things have to be scheduled. There are requirements for work and basic civility, but even then, when I pull up my phone and I click on today's date and I see little boxes of time blocked out, I get very nervous. I get anxious. What is all this? Where did my time go? What about my day? Why did I agree to all of this? And then the most fearful question, how will I be able to make my video? You see, my entire day is my vlog time. I can't schedule that. And if I do schedule that away, it better be because I'm getting paid or I really want to do it. Because everything else is for suckers. See, you've got managers and you've got makers. There are two ways to run your life. Managers know that their day is divided up into little itty bitty pieces for meetings, calls, and administrative tasks. Makers, on the other hand, makers need to have large blocks of uninterrupted time to focus on what it is they're making. When people ask how I'm able to get these videos done every single day, my calendar anorexia is the answer. Same goes with how I'm able to manage a healthy relationship with my wife and my family, and how I manage to exercise and read. Time is our most irreplaceable asset. We can't buy more of it. We can't get a second of it back. We can only hope to waste as little of it as possible while we have it. Yet somehow we treat it as the most renewable of all resources. So if the ask is if we can get together and chat or pick my brain, the answer is no. I'm sorry, but I have this condition. I hope you understand.
Rule number 32, love the process.
Success for me is the process, and I've realized that every time in life where I've sort of reached a benchmark that's enabled me to pause. When I pause, I'm miserable.
Yeah.
I hate it. I hate it. When I sold my HBO series and I had 2 years before it aired, I was miserable during that time. Exactly, and I don't like that. So I think that the journey, the process is the reward for me. So like right now, starting something new, this is the most successful time in my life.
Yeah.
And whatever this yields, like when that exit or however it might manifest takes place, like sure, that's great and it's a cool story, but it doesn't equal happiness.
Yep. Right.
Like Beme, the most
Well
exciting
said.
part of starting a tech company was, when it was my Matt Hackett, my co-founder, and I, just the two of us sitting in a room trying to figure out. That to me was like the pinnacle of success. When I was at MIT, it was like sitting in that lab every single day across from these brilliant minds. That was success for me. So the journey is what I strive for, and it's what excites me the most. And with 368, it's like, it's really building to enable that journey as much as possible. I'm not focused at all on a finish line. There is no, let's raise $100 million of venture money and make this thing a unicorn. I could give a like that's not interesting.
I feel like the finish line is like every day for you. Like every day it restarts, and there's no real.
Yeah, I mean the journey is the reward. The work is the reward.
Rule number 33, be patient.
One more question that came in that kind of broke my heart and I wanted to address. It goes like this. It's from Smokin' Joe. How can I be as good as you when my life isn't very interesting and I can't afford decent recording, editing equipment? I can't seem to gain any growth after 2 years of hard work. Hard work and patience are really what's required to find success in any field in life. 2 years is a very small amount of time, and you gotta be prepared to commit everything if you want to succeed.
Watch your head, watch your step, please.
I think we have to get out.
No, dude. Definitely.
Do we have to get out?
Oh, I had such a good answer. To me, creativity is the ability to be able to believe in the way in which you see the world so much that you actually create an art form out of it. And from what I understand, like video is an outlet, it's a voice. Poems are an outlet. Music may be an outlet. It's a personal perception of the world and the creation around that becomes interesting. And I think that like you've just got to keep at it. There's so many different ways of finding execution and people that will find your work and platforms, but if you just keep and stay true to yourself and the way in which you see things, and that's what your videos are about, that's interesting, that's unique, that's bloody beautiful.
Rule number 34, figure out your passion.
One truth that I realize in life is that there are really only two things you should be doing. If you consider yourself a driven person, a passionate person, there's only two things you should be doing. One is figuring out what it is you want to do, like finding your passion, finding your dream. What is it that you want to do? And then number two is realizing it. And now in retrospect, in success, I'm able to tell you for a fact, figuring it out, like that step one, which just seems so easy and novel, that is by far the hardest thing to do. And I think most people most people that I interact with, most people in life, aren't as lucky as I was to stumble upon my passion so early in life. By the way, that 1-step, 2-step, to flesh that out a little bit more, the reason why I think the hard part is figuring out what you want to do and the easy part is just doing it, is because if it is something that truly drives you, like whatever that was, that fire that lit inside of me when I first played with video on a computer, there was no turning that switch off. I felt about it then at age 18 or 19, living in a trailer, like with no money, with no prospects in life. I was as passionate, as excited in that very moment as I am like an hour ago shooting videos here in Dublin before one of the thugs that works here at Dublin Tech Summit was like, "Where are you? You're supposed to be here an hour ago." And I'm like, "I'm making videos." Like it has never faded for me. It is it is something that just excites me to no end. It's like when I see an old rocker, when I see Mick Jagger playing music with the same kind of passion he had when he was in his 20s and the 60s playing music. That's what it felt like. And to have that is a really elusive thing. A really elusive thing. I look at the people that I know that are happiest. I look at my dad. I look at my friends. And they all have jobs. And the jobs are a way for them to sort of, their job like most people have jobs. They make ends meet and it's a necessity of life. And they're happy in a million ways. But for whatever reason, they never had that, whether you call it fortuitous, lucky, or unlucky moment in life where they found something that made them absolutely possessed, something that took over who they were.
Rule number 35, take action.
I think action begets more action, which ultimately yields success. But it's like, if painting is what's really exciting to you, then pick up the brush.
Right.
And if it's singing, then have the guitar in hand and sing more. So I think no matter what your medium is, I think it's the act of doing that really kind of paves that road.
Yeah.
I know, like, for me, the most exciting part of making a daily video when I started in 2015 was like how much better I got. So I learned more in the first year of vlogging than I learned in the 15 years prior of making videos.
Right.
It's just when you're
starting,
when you're acting that much, when there's that much action, you learn so much about not just the medium but yourself and everything else. It's like, what is it? It's vision without execution is hallucination. Like that is the truth.
Rule number 36, hustle.
There have been a lot of questions, especially after we posted episode 1 about workflow, like about how the edits happen and how we work together. So it kind of goes like this. When I did the vlog, I would shoot all day, edit all night, post the next morning. That worked. For 368 though, I shoot all day, I edit all night, and then the next morning, instead of posting, I give that edit to Dan. And that edit is like an incomplete edit, it's a story edit. So at that point in time, the narrative is together, but all the other stuff, like color correction or sound design, all that takes so much time. And then the next day we post. So it's like on a Monday, if we shoot on a Monday, we post that video on Wednesday instead of on Tuesday, and then we get to have 2 edit passes. Now this is all theory, and we've only done 2 edits so far. And
it's really complicated.
They both are disasters. Like, it seems so easy by giving us that extra time, but we haven't slept in 4 days.
Yeah. Come to New York, Casey said. It would be fun, he said.
Rule number 37, be resourceful.
I went to New York City with like $800, no place to live, and a 2-year-old kid, and I was like, I'll reach for the stars. Like, I'm going to do it. And I moved to New York City, and it was tough, and it was a struggle that it was unimaginable for me prior to actually having lived it. But my first success, the first real like taste of the power of using the internet and leveraging new technology was when I had a movie go viral in 2003. And just to like paint a little bit of a picture for you guys, especially those of you under the age of like 30, this is viral before Twitter, viral before Facebook, viral before any social media. This is when the word viral meant like what happens to an STD in a frat house on a college campus. Like, viral was not used to describe movies then. Like, this was something that was crazy. Like, what it literally took was you'd have to watch this video that I posted on a splash page, a website, because YouTube wasn't born for 3 more years. Get it like
cut the URL, copy, start an email, type out all the addresses of people that you want to send it to, put it in the message box with a funny thing that says, LOL, haha, watch this, click send. And then just hope everybody does that. Like the idea of a movie going viral was such a foreign thing. But here it was, I made this little movie, and all of a sudden it was seen 5 million times. And I start doing the math in my head, and I'm like, wow, if I had a feature film that was seen that many times, it would have to be on the level of like a gigantic Hollywood movie. And this movie cost me $40. Like for no money. I just made a little movie that was fun and pretty stupid movie. It's a really stupid movie. But it reached this massive audience. And that's when it really occurred to me at that moment, like my passion, that drive was so much more driven to using this medium as a way to communicate ideas and perspectives than it was to the formality, the mechanical part of making movies. And that's why I say it ad nauseum, and I'll say it my whole life, my whole career, the gear doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter what tools you're using to share your ideas or share your perspectives. It's just getting them out there. And if you can share in a way that connects with people, you will break through.
Rule number 38, find happiness.
What is being satisfied? Like, we're all going to be dead.
Yeah.
There's no, like, come on. Like, life is this, like, fleeting, stupid thing. Like, some people get more time than others, but, like, it's not, there is no, like, no level of success is going to take you anywhere that the richest person in the end gets the same exact thing as the poorest person. So who gives a shit? What makes you really happy? And I've tried relaxing. I've tried sitting on the beach. I've tried like chilling out. Doesn't work. I've tried staying in fancy hotels and ordering room service. That just makes me bored and miserable. Yeah. I hate vacation. I hate relaxation. Yeah. Work is the only thing that really, really keeps me motivated and keeps me happy in the morning. I'm a better like father. I'm a better husband.
Great point.
When I'm working than when I'm not.
Rule number 39, find your motivation.
And I remember when I moved to New York City, I was 19 years old, 20 years old, I had nothing. I was like a dirt poor kid with no education. And I met all these rich kids, and I idolized them. And I was like, God, they have trust funds, they have money, they have all these resources, all of these worries that I have that I don't get to sleep over because I don't know how I'm going to eat tomorrow. They don't have, and I was so jealous of these people. And many of them I then watched grow up, and we grew up together, and I watched them grow up into really struggle to find a purpose in life because they didn't have to. They didn't need to find a purpose. They didn't need to go out there and fight to find a job. They didn't need to go out there and just like take no prisoners and work through the night because their survival was on the line. They could always be like, I'm just going to go to bed. I've got a trust fund that'll be there in the morning. I feel bad for them. And I thank God I wasn't born rich. I'm very happy that I had to struggle so much early in my career because that's my source of motivation. I know what happens if I stop or go easy, and it sucks. It's terrible. I never want to go back there, so I'll always be fighting. So in the absence of that, I don't know. I don't know, because that's all I've ever known.
Rule number 40, don't fail to try.
I needed a hard reset. I needed a break. See, when you're sitting so close to something, when you're standing in the forest and the trees are blinding you, like when your only focus is your next upload, it makes it hard to see the big picture. Hard to see the totality of where you are, where you want to be, and the best path to get you there. And all that was furthered by the fact that my videos and this channel and making content of my own has not been my priority for a very, very long time. Officially, I ended the vlog in fall of 2016. It's not clickbait. I really am ending the vlog. And I spent the following year plus trying to build something new. And ultimately, I failed. Failure sucks, but the pain that is failure does not exceed the pain that is not trying at all. See, I regret my failures, but I would regret more a failure to try.
Rule number 41, find your passion.
I do a 20-hour day at least 5 days a week, if not 6 days a week. And there's usually a day where I'll sleep in and get 6 or 7 hours. And I have a 3-year-old at home. And I think that especially in the world of YouTube with sort of the buzzwords and the platitudes and the inspirational quotes of working hard, I'm part of this. I sell a sweatshirt that literally says work harder on it.
it's easy to romanticize hard work, but the reality of hard work is that it is what it is, and it sucks, and it's nonstop. There is no off switch. And you know, like I don't need to work hard. Mm-hmm. Like we could leave expensive New York City and move somewhere more cost effective, and I could do nothing but watch TV for the rest of my life. And I can say that at age 37, and that's a huge privilege. But instead I work 20 hours a day because I love every second of it. You know, I took a year where I was not focused on YouTube, I was focused on a company, and it was a more regular schedule. I was miserable. It took away my sense of self. It was my sense of purpose. And that's why I prefaced my whole talk by saying if you find that passion, you're extraordinarily lucky. Because to do that, digging ditches or washing dishes, which is what I did early in my career, it really sucks. But when you love doing it, there's no disassociating your work from your life, your identity, from who you are.
Rule number 42, believe.
When I first moved to New York City, I lived in an SRO, like a single room occupancy. It was a place that had no bathroom and no kitchen. It was a shared bathroom. Not a great place to live. And I used to ride my bike almost every day, like from where I worked all the way downtown, all the way uptown, with this huge heavy bag with like all my camera gear in it. And this camera gear was like this burden. It was like this weight. I knew that burden on my back was going to be what set me free, like what all my dreams could come true if I just believed in this thing.
Rule number 43, know how to brand and market.
We spoke to the creator and the person who's maybe looking to work on their personal brand and stuff. On the flip side, there are a lot of old school brands that have sort of like a dinosaur mentality when it comes to social media and new school marketing. And you being one of the disruptors in that area, you know, you've mentioned in your keynote Nike and how you weren't even wearing anything that was Nike.
That's amazing.
What sort of message do you have to the guys at the top, let's say, that are scared to evolve and they're hesitating because they're used to what works for them?
I mean, look, I think Nike has one of the strongest brands in the world because they're willing to take chances on a video like that. And the reason why someone like myself works well with a company like Nike is because like it's about an ethos as much as it's about a product. Which is to say that it's very little about the product. Mm-hmm. You know, I think Apple computers, like their commercials are never about their products or their products' features. They're about an idea. And my philosophy on branding and marketing as a whole is like, if you sell the idea, people will invariably buy the product. So all the marketing that I do is always about ideas. It's never about products.
Rule number 44, stand out from the crowd.
How do you break through on YouTube, or should you bother?
I mean, my rule is always the same. It's like, if you're doing what everybody else is doing, you're doing it wrong. Mm-hmm. If you're looking to what makes other people successful and thinking you can emulate that, you will never, ever, ever find success in a platform like YouTube. Why would somebody possibly take the carbon copy when they can have the original? So I think it requires a truly inventive kind of thinking. And then just brute force. Mm-hmm. I think that, you know, if in the days of television it was one episode a week, or, you know, movies a couple times a year, I think on YouTube, like, there's such a litany of content that to really be heard and develop a relationship with your audience, you have to constantly be putting fresh content in front of them. So I think if you combine those two ideas, like originality and your creativity, and then just total brute force and hard work, that gives you the best odds. And I see those as not paths to success, but prerequisites for success. By doing both of those things doesn't mean you'll be successful, but without doing them, there's no way you'll be successful.
Rule number 45, be unreasonable.
The reasonable man adapts himself to the world. The unreasonable one persists in trying to adapt the world to himself. Therefore, all progress depends on the unreasonable man. I am an unreasonable man.
Rule number 46, work hard and be brave.
The generic advice I always give to young people is that the two things you need to do to find success in the world, no matter what it is you want to do, is you need to work hard and be brave. If you're willing to work harder than the next guy, and you're willing to take chances that the next guy's not willing to take, you will find success.
Rule number 47, be realistic.
And I'm super cynical and jaded about YouTube's success, which is contradictory to so much of what I share, which is that it is true that it's a fair and open egalitarian meritocracy. Everybody has the same entry point. A 12-year-old kid who's here today signs up for an account the same way that somebody like me signed up for an account when I started mine and I had my own show on HBO. It's the same. So the entry point is the same for everyone, but success is extraordinarily elusive. So when you think of what it might be to be successful on YouTube and you see the YouTube stars with their sweet Yeezys and their Lambos, realize that success on that platform is less likely than succeeding as a musician. Do you want to be the next Katy Perry? Because your chances of succeeding there are the same as they are, or less, or more so than they are on YouTube. Do you want to be a professional athlete? It's the same kind of thing. And I think there is this misconception that because the entry point is an egalitarian one, because it's a fair one, that success is also fair or more accessible, and it's not. It's not. There are 1 billion accounts on YouTube. If you're trying to be a YouTube star, there are 1 billion people in some capacity trying to do that the same. So I would always caution just how gnarly of an uphill battle it is. Mm-hmm. And it's also impossible to predict success. You can look at channels that are making incredible content and say all I have to do is make incredible content. The ones that throw me off are the channels that make garbage content, and they're killing it. And it's like, what does this person know that I don't?
The unwrapping of eggs. You have kids, right? I have a kid.
There's nobody in this audience under the age of 6. Egg unwrapping videos. Literally a plastic egg that gets unwrapped. There's 500 million views on those videos. My daughter watches it. So no, I mean, the advice I would have is don't do it. And if you accept that advice, then you're making the right decision. If you refuse that advice, then know that it is a battle like no other battle, and it requires a level of commitment that I think most people, including myself, were naive to until they're in the throes of it.
Rule number 48, say yes to things.
In 2003, after that video exploded, it opened all kinds of doors for me in places that I couldn't have really imagined. In some interesting places, some weird places, some opportunities that didn't make a lot of sense. I was hired by a public access, a very, very small cable news network to cable television network to make some local content for them. I didn't know what any of that meant. I just said yes, because a good rule of thumb earlier in your career is just keep saying yes until they hand you the check. And that's what I did.
Rule number 49, seize opportunities.
When I was young, the dream was always to be a more traditional filmmaker, to make feature films, to work in television, to be a part of what I understood media to be, when I was a teenager. And then I just think, I'm very lucky to be born at an opportune time. So as technology really shifted and disrupted what media is and what it's come to represent, I think all I saw in that was sort of opportunity to be a part of whatever's next. And after being a traditional filmmaker for a number of years and working in television for a couple of years, it's when I really got excited about what could happen on the internet and the power of things like whether it's YouTube or other social media outlets. When you share video there, it's a very different relationship than when you watch content in a cinema, or watch a movie in a cinema, and it got me excited in a way that I don't think I could have ever imagined. And that's kind of what pulled me out of the traditional space in media and really fixed me more in the new media landscape.
And rule number 50, the last one before a very special bonus clip, is don't let failures stop you.
Deciding to make that iPod movie, which was really stupid and not a great movie, that was one of these defining moments. And when that guy, his name's Tom Scott, he's a brilliant entrepreneur, when he turned to me and said, is there something bigger you want to do? That was one of those moments. And what we pitched him was this. It was like, hey, why don't you just bankroll us, cover all of our expenses for a year, and let us make a bunch of little movies? Is that not the dream right there? But he seemed amenable. I mean, this is a guy who was offering us a huge opportunity after we had done nothing but delivered on something that was nothing like what he hired us for. So it was like, maybe he'll want to take a chance. And he said, sure, let's do it. By the way, him bankrolling us for a year was very, very little amount of money. It was literally just enough so we wouldn't have to worry about rent. We're not talking about millions of dollars here. It was something small. And what we did then was all we knew how to do, which was make these tiny little movies. And this is 2007. But now in 2018, I would describe them as essentially YouTube movies. Like, that's what we were doing, but we didn't know what they were. It was just the only thing we knew how to do. So we made these little videos, and he would come once a month and check on us just to make sure we weren't completely blowing off this huge deal that we made with him. And he loved the content. And about 6 months in, he walked into our office with this like very smart, big deal movie producer. And it was like nerve-wracking. Her name was Christine Vachon, by the way. She's an Oscar award-winning producer. She's an incredible, just like brilliant mind in the world. And she watched the content. And I remember she like didn't say anything, which is like the worst thing somebody can do. You know, if somebody's like, oh, this sucks, you're like, okay, I'll try harder. And if somebody's like, this is great, you're like, yeah, high five, like that. But if someone says nothing is the scariest thing. And she said nothing. And then when it was over, she turned and looked at us and she goes, I think that was very good. But wait, let's perspective. She didn't say, I think that was very good. She said, I think that was very good. Like she wasn't, it was more like, what the hell did I just watch? And she came back to us and she gave us this piece of advice. She was like, take all of those little movies and figure out how to put them together in a consumable way. Like make it so you can actually watch them. And we're like, okay. So that's exactly what we did. We took all these little pieces of a movie. We made them 20 minutes long. We put an intro at the beginning and we put credits at the end. And then we were like, this is now a TV show. You laugh, and so did every single TV network we brought it to. I remember one network was like, if you don't find anywhere else to put it, we'll put it on our website. And that was like the most painful thing to hear. It was like, ugh, defeat. But that woman, Christine Vachon, she showed it to HBO. And I remember her calling and we were like, hey, how'd the meeting go? And she said they liked it. And I just remember I was like, she's a restrained woman, but that has to mean something. They liked it. And at the end, HBO bought that show for like a couple $1 million. And that was like the big break. That was our big success. Don't applaud. That was our big success. You guys weren't going to applaud anyways. But we had done it. Like that was it. That was the victory. It was 2008. Like climb on top of the mountaintop. Like we did it. And then nothing happened. Like they sat on the show for 2 years. And when it finally aired 2 years later, they played it on a Friday night at midnight. Can you imagine what this audio size would be like if my videos were only watchable at midnight on Friday nights? It'd be me and that guy with the phone. That's it. just the two of us. And it was a failure. Like it got cool reviews. People were like, this is an interesting concept. No one watched it. And that was crushing. That was heartbreaking. And it was in the ashes of that I was like, I'm just going to do this on YouTube. I'm just going to do this on YouTube. And I think the ultimate irony is that if you go back and you watch my HBO series, you'll see it feels and looks exactly like the content that I now call a vlog. The content that does 2 million views a day, every single day. It's the same thing.
Now I have a special bonus clip from Casey on how to seek out collaborations that I think you're going to enjoy. But before that, it's time for the 3-point landing question. It's time to go from just watching a video to taking action. Here we go. Question number 1. How can you be more of a maker this week? Number 2. How can you root for others and do something today to show them you care? And number 3. What's the most important thing you need to focus on for the rest of the day? Now, if you like this video and you're gonna take some action, give me a hashtag believe down in the comments as well.
You've spoken about the ice cube, and you've spoken about how the ice cube is like an idea, and when you pass it around to too many people, it melts. And you've explained that collaborating is almost like that. So in this new endeavor of collaboration, how do you sort of balance that collaboration versus doing things yourself?
Sure. I mean, I think creativity by committee is very different from the idea of collaborating. I think that if you think of the Beatles as a number of different musicians coming together and collaborating to create amazing music, it's very different from institutionalizing music where there are filters and approvals and that kind of systematic creative thinking. And certainly the way that I know that I collaborate best is I work with people who have their own creative vision, and I step into their world and we make something together, and then they step into my world and we make something together. So I think that by definition is sort of siloing your own sort of defining unique characteristics around creativity instead of marginalizing it by trying to make it something that is more universal.
If you want to see the top 10 I did on Peter McKinnon, check out the video right there next to me. I think you'll enjoy it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
You're gonna get better once you go through the how do you take good photos? You take thousands of bad photos until you start taking more good photos.